And I asked him, after we come back home, saying, he's like, yeah, I'm gonna go marry my girlfriend, and I'm gonna go to school. I'm gonna use the GI Bill. It's like, oh, cool. And that was the end of that. The next day, he was killed.
Welcome to The Vietnamese. I'm your host, Kenneth Nguyen. Being part of a culture of nearly 100 million Vietnamese people in the world today comes with a lot of pain, proud history, and privilege. Join me as I highlight and explore the Vietnamese experience from all over the world.
Hey, Jess. How are you, man?
Good, Ken. How are you?
I'm good. How are you feeling?
I have a lot of how am I feeling? I'm not doing so well. Physically, I'm just tired right now. I think it's because of stress, and mentally, I'm not doing so well in that department as well. Last time we spoke, I remember bits and pieces of it. Just talk about my experiences of being in the military and being Vietnamese American. Just some issues I had. I don't remember a whole lot from that conversation we had, but I know that you reached out to me to kind of check in with me and discuss what's been going on lately in regards to the news about Afghanistan. So I'm dealing with some interpersonal things such as family, children type issues right now. So I'm preoccupied with that. And then, as you know, I have a job. I have a difficult job. I'm in a leadership position at the VA, and I'm very busy working with veterans right now, and in particularly, homeless veterans. Homelessness is a huge issue right now throughout the country, and specifically here in Southern California. Um, so yeah, in regards to Afghanistan, when I heard initially, I knew that eventually we were going to have to pull out and this would occur. But 20 years later, right? Um, it's kind of excuse me.
Don't worry.
Um, yeah, I just lost my train of thought. Sorry.
20 years later.
Yeah, 20 years later, here we are, and I I immediately knew that I'm going to have some feelings about it. I was more in shock, so I went ahead and scheduled to go see therapy again, without even processing my current feelings at the time. I just knew, like, hey, as a therapist myself, I knew I needed to get in back into that. Then, as more information started coming out, the veteran community speaking up about what's going on in Afghanistan, my mother reached out to me because, as you know, Ken, and for the viewers, my mom fled Vietnam in the 75 during the fall of Saigon, right? And the iconic picture of the helicopter picking up, um, Vietnamese refugees and transporting them to a safe place. My mom reached out to me to reflect on that. And there was a more recent picture about Afghanistan. That same type of picture emerged, and she was I don't know, my mom's not just a person of emotions. I think it's, from what I've seen, typical Vietnamese culture where you just don't talk about sadness and things like that. And I just had a hint from her of her sadness, and maybe reliving her own traumatic experiences, fleeing her country in Vietnam. um, for me, that kind of really tipped the edge with me, because my mom, who has feelings but just never really showed them to me growing up, and then she's, in her way, is showing me her feelings. That bothered me a bit, and then as more news came out and more veterans talking to me about it, it really bothered me. um, it bothers me in the sense of the wasted lives that we have there, all the interests we have there. And I'm not here to, like, bash any political group or anything like that. That's not my purpose. I don't side one way or another. I just side with what makes sense, and it didn't make sense to go there in the first place, in my opinion. From being a Marine over there, a Marine officer at that, you know, I may mention this last time, but we never had an order to really explain to us why we were there. So, you know,
That's
we're running
crazy.
around.
That's
Yeah,
fucking
right.
crazy. If you think about that, it's like, well, let's go back to what were you doing there? You did 2 tours in Afghanistan, right?
I did one tour Afghanistan, two in
2 in
Iraq.
Iraq, 1 in Afghanistan.
Uh,
So what did you do there?
I was an infantry officer in the Marine Corps. Um, my specific job was executive officer. So I did a lot of administrative type work, processing orders from higher headquarters and disseminating that to the platoon commanders that operate in the area. So basically, yeah, my boss had a role in it as well, obviously, but you know, a lot of information is flowed through me down to them, and then basically the commanding officer thumbs up, thumbs down, right? Um, so my information pushed to them, you know, instituted patrols. Patrols what didn't make any sense to me that we were doing. Basically, you know, we were in an area where it was somewhat safe, but maybe 2 or 3 kilometers away from us was the city of Marja, and it was a Taliban stronghold at the time. I don't remember the enemy strength, but I know that the ratio of fighting to 3 to 1 was not in our favor as a Marine company. We were reinforced, so we're probably maybe 250 strong, maybe a little bit more. I don't remember the exact numbers, but there's just no way of us fighting them head on.
You know what's crazy, Jess? Uh, when you're in it, or when you're a young man, when we were in our teens, I was in my teens or 20s, and we enlist to join these things. We have a completely different mindset. We're actually a completely different human being, right? And then when you reflect on that shit, when you get out and you start building up more knowledge and more information, your perspective changes a lot, right? And
Mhm.
so I think many times is dealing with the perception of who we were, who we are today. And I think today I kind of want to talk about that sort of person that you were during your time in Afghanistan, and your reflections on who you were, what you were going through, the meaning behind the activity you were doing at the time, and then reflecting, who you are today, and the the difference of who you've become.
Right. And it makes when you explain that or talk about it, it reminds me of whenever I initially joined the Marine Corps in '98, and you were getting out at that time, or no, actually you're already out. And I think your brother was on his way out of the Marine Corps,
Correct.
and I think you're a little bit more mature than me at the time. Maybe you still are, but who knows? I remember you
Up for
talking
debate.
about yeah, yeah. I remember you talking to me about politics, you know, and things like that. And I was like, "What's this guy talking about? He's a Marine, you know. Why is he talking like this? Why is he talking this direction of like, you know, peace, love, and happiness, you know?" And you know, I'm exaggerating, you know. You
Yeah.
didn't convey it that way, but as a Marine, you're very conservative in your views. But as a young man and as a young Marine, my immediate thought process is, hey, I'm serving the country, serving my country. I am doing something for the greater good, and I'm there for my brothers, my Marine brothers. That's my justification of everything. My Marine Corps brothers, right? That's what I'm doing it for. Politics, I don't understand. Because I don't care. I'm there because I'm a badass. I'm a Marine. I will take your life, right? Um, so, but as a lieutenant, you know, rising from the ranks from enlisted to become an officer, you know, there's a little bit more awareness, and you know, officers do have an education. So I think education gave me a little bit more awareness than my contrary belief of where I grew up in Indiana, a very small. Someone corrected me. I think last time I said like 20,000. I think it's 35,000, but still, in comparison to like Los Angeles, that's peanuts. That's not even a small city, you know,
It's not even a
in
town in
LA
LA. Yeah.
County, right? Yeah, and so um, it just, my awareness kind of opened up when I think we were in Iraq. It was like, hey, we're here to help the people, save the people, which of course, I mean, America, I think we were there for that purpose, but I think we had some other incentives, like, resources, natural resources, right? um I think we came in blind with, kind of odd justifications of weapons of mass destruction. I don't think we ever found any there. And I think while I was there, um in Iraq, we were looking for those weapons as well. Never found them. Um, so it's not very clear and cut politically, why we're in wars. At a young age, I didn't really understand that too much, but it brought me questions in my head, right? Later on during my career. Um, and I think some people, it's easier to justify when you choose a political group because they believe in certain things and they're very strong about it, even though it doesn't make any sense sometimes to some people. But I wasn't one of those guys. Like I told you, I just,
You were
whatever makes,
diehard.
yeah,
You were diehard. You were all about the Marine Corps and the way of life and
exactly.
the structure that it gave you and the life that it gave you and the rebirth of a
Yeah,
life that it gave you.
yeah,
And I understood it. I didn't. It wasn't my to talk more about it. My place was just to be a family member and basically love you, and allow that sort of growth to eventually happen. But I don't think that things are cut and dry anymore. I don't think that there is a particular way to look at it. I think we have to constantly talk about all angles of it, right? Because there's some value in the way we saw things in our early 20s as Marines, and then there's value in the way we see things right now. And I think the more we talk about things, the more we kind of air things out, and we just analyze and try to not. I try not to make any judgments on what I hear and what I learn today.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And as you're talking, I'm thinking about that family. I think that family structure that I had in the Marine Corps was very powerful. I mean, growing up in Indiana, my sister and I, basically the only Asians there, right? Growing up in that town. Um, I had friends, I had my family, but I just never had a sense of belonging anywhere. And the Marine Corps gave me that. I mean, I had my issues whenever I first joined because homesick and crap like that. But, over time, I excelled in the Marine Corps. I mean, I climbed up the ranks. I was enlisted, I became an officer. Um, I came from non-infantry side to infantry side, and I loved it. I loved the camaraderie we had. I loved the discipline. I loved that fatherly feeling I had with my superiors.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, over time, it got to the point where my eyes were a little bit bigger. Um, just more growing up and just more knowledge and I keep on repeating that over and over because I think that's part of my my trauma. If why we here, why we run around the battlefield, why are we doing this? Why am I watching some guy get blown up? Why am I having to handle his body right now? Right. And while during the act, I'm like, hey, I'm a Marine. I'm just doing my job, right? But it bothered me because it didn't make sense to me. Um, War, Afghanistan and working with the Afghan National Army. I mean, I'm no better than anyone, but I'm gonna say they're fucking idiots. Afghan National Army, those guys are idiots, but I blame on their leadership.
Okay, let me ask you this. Let me ask you this. You keep hearing this shit about we had 20 years and they didn't get their act together. What is the reality of that? What is the reality of that statement that you hear? They had 20 years. And then I talk to some older people who are in the know, and they're like, we fought to the end. 5 of our generals, they committed suicide because they didn't want to give up the country, on the Vietnam War. There's a difference between how we lost the country in Vietnam, and the Afghanistan army didn't. They just were incompetent. They were much more incompetent than the Vietnamese army.
Right.
Is that true? I mean, how could a whole group of men be that incompetent?
I wouldn't say all the Afghan, military was incompetent. The majority of them were. And you think about how leadership is, it starts from the top. Look at the president of the country. I mean, was he there really to better his country or get financial assets from America? People can argue that all day. But I found out the leaders at our level, they're always about, there's always corruption. We would give them fuel, they would turn around and sell it. We would give them supplies, they'd turn around and sell it. Right. And it's just like, we would pay them thousands of dollars for like a building a bridge or something. This bridge that they built was so cheap. I mean, there's no way that someone could even walk over the bridge, and we paid thousands for it, right? So corruption was just rampant, man. And it's like we as the Marines saw this and we're like, what the hell? These people are worthless, right? We do all this for them. We're in their country. We're trying to help them. Because we're good Marines, but they don't want to help themselves. I think that mentality kind of went on and on throughout the 2 decades we were there. But this is just from my perspective. I
get
maybe
it.
so
Yeah.
someone else could think differently, but this is what I saw.
Yeah.
Because in my position, I was lieutenant. I was a junior officer, so I got to see the boots on the deck, the actual Marines doing the dirty work, and I saw pictures of higher headquarters and what they wanted from us. And the picture from higher headquarters just didn't make any sense. It's like, why are we running around this area? For what purpose? What are we doing? What is our strategic goal? We never knew. But at the Marine level, all they knew is, hey, we're just gonna sit there and, you know, um, uh, you know, I'm sorry, get interrupted here.
I've always had this very ignorant and ill-informed way of kind of expressing my thoughts on this matter. Is it true? Do you feel like this is true that if we wanted to just come in and take over and just get in and get out, we can do it fairly quickly as a force? We can go in, do what we know how to do in a month and do what we got to do. Send in like the big guns and throw everything at it and get out in a month. Can we do that, or 2 months or a year max? If we had true intentions of restoring or getting people kicked out, like the Taliban or some forces. I mean, this is always dominating my thoughts. It's like, in war, can't you get the shit done in 3 months? Why the fuck is it not getting done quickly so we can get the fuck out?
I mean, I guess from my perspective, I hear what you're saying, and I've talked to some vets, and they're like, "Why can't we just go in there and just bomb the whole damn place? Collateral damage, right, for the innocents."
I don't even know. What about, like, sending in a shit ton of special forces guys and just taking out what you need to take out? And I don't know. I'm like, again, it's maybe a very ill-informed place that I'm asking from, a very ignorant place, but it just
Yeah,
doesn't seem 20 fucking years or 10 years at war in Vietnam, 20 years in Afghanistan. Why are they taking this long? We are the supreme force, military force in the world. We have all the technology, we have all the intelligence, we have all the capacity to do things very
yeah,
quickly.
yeah.
How is it taking decades to do Afghanistan and then get out and nothing was really done?
I can just say one word about that: politics. That's something I don't understand very well. I just say politics. I mean, at our level, there were so many rules that we had. Hey, you can't shoot this until X, Y, and Z happens. You can't do this unless X, Y, and Z happens. So there's hesitancy on our behalf at times on what we can do. And as an officer, I got to ensure that, hey, we're doing clean kills, we're doing clean operations, But I'm not going to allude to too much of what we did over there and what occurred, which we shouldn't. But at times, I was just tired of the rules that are governed by our politics, right? So I turned my head. By me saying that, can I end up in jail? Probably not. No, this is things that what's the safety for us. And in this particular case, I'm referring to is my safety. Um, so it sucks I have to explain it like that, because there's always a fear of repercussion, and that's the mindset we had over there. um I think we came in full-fledged. Hey, we're going to come in here, we're going to kill these people, and we're going to get these people to take over control, et cetera, et cetera. Anyone that tries to interfere with us, we're going to kill them. I don't think that happened. It was always like, hey, help us out here. Here's a little bit of some Benjamins. Help us out. I think we fought that war incorrectly. But then again, like you said, it comes to a place of ignorance too, because I'm not a general. I'm not a politician. So I don't know what occurs on their level.
And
But
I
I'm
would
assuming
suspect that the generals probably are in the dark too. They're just
yeah,
doing what they're told. I mean, you're conditioned as a second lieutenant all the way up to becoming a general, right? You go through becoming a captain, major, colonel. You crawl up the ranks for 30 years and you become a general. Now you're working in DC, chief of staff of some department, and you've been a yes man for 30, 25,
yeah.
30 years. You think you're going to start asking questions at that level to the suits? I don't think so.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. But you know what? In the media, recently, that lieutenant colonel, he pulled their cards, the commandant of the Marine Corps. Now, most of my news right now is I hear it through the grapevine. I don't watch directly. It bothers me. I'm not so much angry at what's happening now, and I'm not surprised. It's just like it's hurtful. It's disheartening, man. I mean,
what is disheartening about this whole thing?
the deaths, the casualties we had over there, man. I mean, like I said, man, the premise of these Marines is, hey, it's a brotherhood, it's a family, and now they're dead. They were killed, and it took me years to reach out to the families. I finally did a couple months ago. I was meaning to do it again, but I just I got so much going on right now in my head.
Yeah.
I'm safe. I have a good support system. Um, and as I get older, I'm realizing life is a lot shorter. You got to really enjoy what you have and use your past experiences to better your current and future experiences, right? So that's where I'm at today.
How many guys
yeah,
did you lose?
4, but I was close to 2. Well, I mean, close is like I watched them grow up from being privates to being corporals. So your lowest ranking non-commissioned officer, a leader, the leader at the lowest level. I watched them grow, and then one particular death really bothers me because I came from listed ranks, so I understand like the leadership structure from coming from being a private to an officer, and I really distanced myself from the enlisted. I kept it very professional. I was very private about my life, just because I wanted to establish that chain of command. And I don't never had any issues in regards to chain of command by subordinates. Never. Yeah, nothing like that. Um, but prior to a major operation that we did, this Marine, we're sitting on the burn shitter, we're taking a shit. And in Afghanistan, there's no plumbing out there where we're at. We're at a patrol base. We took a dump in these metal, basically a 55-gallon oil drum. You cut it in half, or cut it in thirds, and the bottom half you put a board over it, and that's your bathroom. And I would use it at night because you do in the daytime, you got flies all over you, and they're landing in the shit, and they're landing on your face. You're fighting them, trying to use the bathroom. So I'm like, no. So I made my routine to be at night because there's less flies, right? So there's Marine, and then we sit side by side. It's just in the open. So this Marine sat next to me. He's
Like
like,
balls all hanging out and shit. Like you take
yeah, it's okay. It's okay.
Just I never got to experience that shit.
But it was relaxing because you're relieving yourself at the same time you're talking to somebody, right? I mean, you're like socializing. So it's kind of like a relaxing moment all around. So this Marine, he was talking to me. He's like, hey, sir, how you doing? We really haven't talked to him. He initiated the conversation with me. So I was
literally
like, okay,
at night, you guys are both taking a dump.
Yep. We're talking about this, and I asked him, after we come back home, say, And he's like, yeah, I'm gonna go marry my girlfriend, and I'm gonna go to school. I'm gonna use the GI Bill. I was like, oh, cool. And that was the end of that. The next day, he was killed.
Oh fuck.
Yeah, man. So I let my guard up and my procedures up of like not being close to these guys, and he uh he was killed. And when we got back to the States, his family was there. I was advance party to going back first with the first batch to set things up for the remaining main body to come back from Afghanistan, and his family was there. And like, fuck, man, I didn't know how to react to them. I was just so stoic with them. It's like so robotic, and my affect was totally flat. I don't know if it was my coping mechanism back then, or just me being a Marine per se. I don't know. It was just
But
I
what are you gonna
remember,
do? Like, oh, like you're gonna give him a bear hug, like you're fucking at David and Buster's, or
I
like there's
yeah,
there's no way, there's no
yeah,
way you could be human. You were in uniform at the time, right?
yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, but I knew why he died. I knew how he died. I witnessed it, and then I remember his sister, who was pregnant at the time. Um, not by him, obviously. All right, but who knows?
There's some brevity right there.
So so
Dark.
she came up to me and just looked at me and just started bawling. I was like, I'm sorry. I just sat there and looked at her like very stoically. And I don't know. And that bothered me for many years. I wish I could have said more or done more,
Wow.
but I made amends with that by talking to the family. And they said like, yeah, we kind of understood where you were coming from. They're a family in North Carolina, very small town they came from. But I reached out to him, and then I, when I got out, I stayed under the radar. I didn't talk to a lot of vets. When I went to therapy, it was never group settings. It was always one-on-one type therapy. I guess I felt guilty as an officer because here I'm the guy, I'm the politician per se. I'm
Yeah.
sitting behind the scenes telling you what to do. Then your life gets ended or your life gets screwed up because of my decision, right? That bothered me for many years until I did start reaching out to some vets. I'm like, Jesse, we were there because of the brotherhood. Same thing I was there for, right? So we don't care about the politics, but we were there for each other, and we wanted to go out there and we wanted to kill people. We wanted to do that for the best interest of the United States of America, right? Um, but I didn't think that way later on, like I've been explaining to you, and I found out, by talking to this family, there's a lot of guys that in that tour during that tour are not doing so well in their life. A lot of trauma. I mean, to watch your buddy or someone get blown up,
Yeah, it's fucked up.
and then deal with their bodies, and the lieutenant on scene that was there and witnessed everything, and I commend him. I can't remember what kind of award he got, but he was dealing with that casualty. He was dealing with an ambush, and he was and then someone else got wounded. So he was like battling all three of those stuff, and here I am on the other radio trying to pull information, to me, so I can help him like coordinate and organize the information and get more assets to him. That was my job. Another component of my job. Um, but I haven't heard from him for years. I reached out to some of my buddies that I thought would have connections with him, but he's under radar. So I hope he's doing okay. But I remember he did come to me, um, after that death, and like I think he just wanted to talk to me. Um, as Marines, we just don't cry, right? I think he wanted to cry with me, and it's not that I didn't let him. I just listened to him, and he was pretty tore up. He's like, yeah, I picked up half his body and just looked at him. I had a moment, and I think he lost his marbles after that a little bit. his Marines were telling me that he was set up fake IEDs, so fake, improvised explosive devices, what was, killing us over there, mines, whatever you want to call it. He was setting like booby traps all over the patrol base. So his Marine, but they were like, he would tie him up to like a light or something, not an explosive. So his Marines would be on guard. So when they would step on it, it would light up, So he wanted them to have the mindset of not being complacent.
This was a
At,
lieutenant or first lieutenant working at.
yeah, it was the first lieutenant. He was the first lieutenant at the time. Um, he was losing his marbles, and then at that time, mental health it wasn't very well known. PTSD wasn't known. Well, it wouldn't be PTSD because it was so acute. So he was traumatized. Um, and we just didn't understand. We just thought he was just being weird, like him, like how he was. Um, but he was pretty messed up about it. And I think for the veteran community, um, this the fall of Afghanistan brings up a lot of raw emotions, a lot of memories of, what we lost there and how much, blood and sweat we put into it for what. But then again, at the same time, like I've been telling you, we expected it. We expected it from these guys. We knew that once we left, these guys are not going to fight for themselves. While we were there, I remember the locals saying, "Hey, you guys leaving? Are you guys leaving? Are you here for good?" They knew. I think they knew that we weren't going to have a permanent presence there. So it makes sense. Hey, get what you can, right? Get what you can from these people, why they're here. And I think that's what
Absolutely.
they did. And
Yeah.
I think that's what they did. Um, it's disheartening to see like our presence with that freedoms that allowed the Afghans. Like the women, they were getting education, they were unveiling themselves, they had a voice, right? Storefronts had color in them, they had designs, they had art. That country's just like, ugh, there's like no color. But I'm I'm sure with the influence that we had over that changed. And you get to see the broken hearts of these people, so the fear of
Yeah,
these
and see,
people.
that's the fucking moral argument here too, right? Like, you witness color coming back into society as boots on the ground with your presence there, with your group of men there, and it's this colonial aspect of we don't belong there, but a bunch of guys with guns coming in, but brought color, brought life, brought unveiling of women's faces and freedom and certain rights that came back to that society. And then we leave and it's gone. So the moral argument, I think, for us is, well, man, did we offer some good in that short amount of time that we were there? And was it better than nothing? But then at what cost? You know,
Yeah. Yeah. I think there was a small footprint. Well, I wouldn't say small. I think there's some positive attributes that we brought to the table there. But I'm thinking, I dare the Taliban to become educated. Not in the religious religion necessarily, but just education. I dare them to be educated. Um, I'm
what
not
do you
saying
mean
that
by
all
that?
of them are.
What do you mean by that?
Hey, like look at our society. Education is paramount, right? It's education. This is why we're a world power. I mean, because of education and resources, but everything for everybody starts from education. You think about it. Some people are just lucky in life where they have money, etc., etc. But for the majority of the hardworking American, our pathway towards our success is through education,
Yeah,
right?
just
So
knowledge,
that's
right?
yeah,
Ability to
and
know
just
shit.
I think Afghans go on beliefs. You know, maybe they're supported by fact, but
Yeah.
you know,
You know what's crazy? Yeah, there's so many parallels, but there's so many non parallels. A lot of things that are very different from Vietnam and Afghanistan. This morning, I had another podcast episode with President Thuy. She's the president slash one of the founders of Fulbright University in Vietnam, and it's a really cool university, modeled after different systems here in the U.S. about free thinking, um, autonomy, thinking outside the box, and it's a liberal education in Vietnam, where Vietnam's typically more STEM, more science, more technology heavy, and so this is forcing them to sort of think more liberal arts terms. But
Hmm. Hmm.
what's cool, what I learned this morning is this: in 2005, the prime minister of Vietnam at the time went to the United States, to Harvard, and sat down for meetings with Larry Summers, which was the president of Harvard at the time in 2005, and got
Hmm.
a mind full of ideas to take back to Vietnam on education. How do we make our education more robust? How do we think about things in a different way? In 2013, they sent another delegation to MIT, to Harvard again, and to all these big institutions of learning. And then they came back. And now it's like they're grinding out how to make the education system in Vietnam better, right? And you're right. It's like, when will the Afghani group or the government, Taliban related, or any of that, realize that education is the key? But then probably the US, looking at Vietnam 45, 50 years ago, were probably thinking the same thing. The troops at the time were probably
Yeah.
thinking the same thing. Fuck them. I hope that, I dare them go get an education, right?
Yeah. Yeah. But you know what? Some of the Vietnam vets I speak with, they speak highly of the South Vietnamese army, or the South Vietnamese
Mm.
military forces.
And that's, I
Um,
think, the difference that I'm hearing as well.
I think what I've seen and what I've heard is the Vietnamese culture, or is hard workers, is very dedicated. We may not know because lack of skills, lack of education, but if we're guided that direction, and apologies for speaking for us as a group, but this is from just my experience, what I've seen
Right.
and heard. Um, like if we're put into that situation, we're going to excel. I mean, that's what I've seen. And look at the nail industry. I mean, I don't want to digress too much, but yeah, it's very basic to do nails, but look how well the Vietnamese community does it, and look how they thrive on that. You know what I'm saying? Um, I guess from my just personal, experience in life, I watched my father. He's always been a hard worker, and I kind of picked up that mentality. He may have not known the how to, but he always seeked ways to get more knowledge to do whatever better. And I'm hoping the Afghans will see that, but I don't know, man. If that's ever going to occur over there. Just it's about what they can get, because America, we got money. They saw us as a ticket book. Um,
But
I'm just, yeah,
I'm wondering how different the Vietnamese society in the 70s were compared to Afghan society while the US was there. The culture of improving, the culture of, just being sovereign, just having your own governance, ability to govern, and how they actually view this sort of temporary force being there, the US. I think, I wonder if there was an actual, at the time, for the Vietnamese people, we understood that, hey, these guys are here to help win. Once they leave, we got to like pick up and we got to set up things. We have to set up shop. Whereas what you're saying is your feeling was the Afghan people didn't have that sort of same understanding of independence when you were there.
yeah, but I'm not too familiar with the history of Vietnam back then. That's something that's a good conversation with my mother. Um, and I think she would be more willing to open up to me now. She's told me things, after my service, that was kind of, I was shocked how when she fled Vietnam, it was in the process because she worked for the U.S. Embassy. She had connections. When she fled during the night, and I guess she said she fled during a firefight or something like that. Just imagine that,
Yeah.
you know, just fleeing Vietnam and during a firefight. You know, you're not even a combatant. You're just a civilian trying to get away. And my mom finally told me that after what, 40 years and 30 some years, right? She finally told me that. So yeah, it's like, I think everyone in life, has some type of struggle or trauma. It's just
Yeah.
how we overcome it. For me, right now, it's just a flash, not flash. Well, flashback, sure, you can use that term of what's happened. It just brings up a lot of emotions, a lot of sadness, a lot of reflection of these wonderful Marines that has so much, potential in life to cut short. And I think previously I spoke about the Afghans of like being, you know, yeah, I'll be mad too if I came to your country and you try to change my way of life. Yeah, sure, I'll try to kill you, but I generally sense like evil in the Taliban. Um, I don't know, I can't explain it, but um, these guys were just bad, bad, bad cats.
I think
Um,
anytime you have a society of men, patriarchy in
yeah,
power, and they
yeah,
fucking dominate it, and they don't let women come near that space to help govern, or they're not open to it, and they're actually repressing the education of women, we're gonna have that's a problem. That's just it. And that keeps perpetuating that power, just corrupts absolutely, and it just perpetuates the cycle of evilness when you don't want to open it up to an equal society for gays, for women, for all of the people. And if it's just men and their patriarchy, you better believe that they're gonna fucking fight to protect that. I think.
yeah,
Why are they
yeah.
gonna give it up?
Right,
Why
right.
the fuck would they give it up culturally? Why would they ever? And I think that's the beauty of the West, in in some, when you analyze it, it's like we we work on that. We work on equality, and we try our best as a society to lift everybody up. It's not always perfect. Absolutely, it's not absolutely perfect, but it's definitely everybody putting their best foot forward, and trying their best. And we fail at this whole thing of equality, but we definitely try to balance out our society. And there's still patriarchy and men here happening. I want to go back to what you said about your mom. I want to know more about, you know, is this opening up a bridge between your mother and yourself about conversation about war?
Yeah, definitely. I'm gonna take it slow with my mom, just because my mom, and I'm just shocked, right? She's telling me this stuff. It's like, when I left Vietnam, I had to run through the fields and they were fighting. And I was like, what the hell did she see? But I think she's opening up to me because obviously I'm older, right? And I think she knows the experiences I had as being a Marine in combat, right? Um, that maybe she feels like she can relate to me a little bit more in that aspect. That's why she's telling me, or she's telling me to show her appreciation of like the struggle she's been to. And here she comes to America, retired from, LA County as a LA County worker. And she lives in a nice place now. And just like all her hard work, where she's come from and what she's done and where she is now. Um, I think my mom went on a very ideal as a therapist. I'm not trying to therapize my mom, but all her milestones in life are kind of been met throughout the decades of her life. Career, childbearing, family, retirement. Now at her age, her focus is on the grandchildren. Um, Now my father is a little bit different story. I don't think he's met all those milestones in life. Yeah, and now he's stuck in the past. And he can't move forward.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
You know, this whole idea of things that were happening in war, right? In your little in your company, your platoon, your corner, there is no
Mm.
way, even as I'm listening to your stories, and I've never been to combat. I've gone through some of the training, but even somebody like me, I consider myself 100% civilian. I don't ever. It's even hard to even think that I was a veteran, but I
Yeah.
don't think of myself that way. I think of myself as a long-haired hippie inside. Like I, I have
Yeah.
short hair because it's just easier to manage, but I do consider myself much more of a, on the other extreme. Um, we as civilian people cannot reconcile and understand. We can't even imagine what it's like to pick up a leg that was blown apart from a body of somebody who we were just talking to the night before. We can't imagine it. And I can't imagine, if we can't imagine what that's really like, how do we even as a society help out people coming back from war?
You know, with my current position now, um, I don't see a whole lot of combat vets. I don't know why.
They don't come
Maybe they're
in.
going. No, not really. I mean, you get them, but there's not majority of veterans that I see that I've encountered personally as a veteran and as a clinician. They're most of them are not combat guys.
You know what, my
Maybe
suspicion, a lot of them are probably on the police department, on the force, probably fucking taking out aggressions on, through their work. There gotta be. If you think about, where the fuck do these combat vets go after they get discharged? Sign up to the fucking police department, FBI, DEA.
most combat yeah, most combat vets that I served with, they're strong people.
Yeah,
They're just
but
a strong mindset,
they're not
and
dealing
then
with their shit though, man. They're not cleaning.
yeah,
There's some dark
yeah,
places in their minds, and all of the shit that we deal with police brutality, have we that's not even a conversation. I feel like that's not even a conversation that is being had, right? You think about it, a lot of this shit, like, yeah, there's like white supremacists, or there's this white mentality of oppressing people of color and blacks and all this shit. Yes, there's definitely 100% that going on, but there's also probably unresolved combat issues that are happening in live men that are living with this baggage on the forces throughout the United States.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I don't want to disclose too much, but it just reminds me of uh, some associations that I'm very familiar with and could potentially make news. So I do. I'm just gonna say keep it at that, and I understand what you're saying. Is just I think anything. I think the person really has to want it. You really have to want it. I think right now, the way things have been the past 10 years, um, it's out there. The help is out there. It's just a matter of you know identifying within yourself, and that's probably the most difficult part. That's a problem, and then getting the help from it. And I think for a lot of Marines, there's a lot of pride, involved, and maybe that's what's preventing them. Well, actually, I know that's what's preventing some of them because I know them personally, and I suggested, "Hey, why don't you go to a therapist?" And they laughed at me. I was like, "I don't do that." It's like, all right, man,
How
you know
many
it's
guys
there.
that are therapists at the VA, I mean, just to guess, that have combat veteran, like combat experience like you, who've gone through the shit and now are, dude, I mean, the journey that you took to become some fucking young enlisted ass motherfucker who was like completely lost, and then become a captain. That means you had to have gone to college, and then you had to go to OCS to become an officer.
Yeah,
You have to go through the whole fucking training of becoming a Marine officer. That is no easy. And then after you get out, you go back to graduate, you go back to school, get a graduate degree, and then you do your hours and you become a That is
Yep.
no easy. I can't imagine a lot of ex-combat officers are sitting in your doing what you're doing today.
Well, obviously they're out there, but in my small group of social workers, maybe out of 200, there's me and actually two other guys I know that are combat
Well,
guys that are, well, actually, I'm sorry, one. There's only one. There's only me and this other guy. I know there's a lot of people that serve, but there's no combat experience, and doesn't make me better than anybody. It just gives me more perspective in life. I think more experiences. You know, but yeah, there's not a lot of us, especially what I've been through, and like you said, enlisted officer now, starting over, like you said, as a going through a master's program in social work, and at times I wonder why the hell I do what I do. I got enough problems myself. Why I'm trying to do with someone else's problem, and it's like, I think I came to the mindset of, hey, I'm going to save the world. I'm going to help these people out. People come to me and it's like, what the hell? It's like, really? It's like, really, dude? But I try my best to help people. I try to put my personal feeling aside, and because everybody's different, everyone has different levels of issues, and maybe my experiences in life can help somebody. Even though they cuss me out, whatever, I'll
that
try to do my
happens.
best all the time.
What do you mean?
But
Like,
I never. They don't get what they want, and they get very upset, and they cuss you out. But the thing about it is, I don't disclose who I am. Being a veteran, being a combat vet, I don't disclose that. It's like I don't need to disclose that because this is how you're presenting to me or anyone else, really. But sometimes I'll disclose it for the best interest
yeah.
for the veteran, to gain a better rapport, so they open up to me and talk about what's really going on, so I can help them. Then I open that can of worms. If someone's cussing me out, I won't pull that out.
Can I ask you a question?
Or sure,
Okay. I'm sorry to cut you off. I just
no, don't.
um so you have three boys, right? And if these kids were like, hey dad, there's this shit that just happened. I want to go and fight. I want to go in the Marine Corps did what I want to do what you did, and I want to go in and I want to tear shit up. I want to do what my dad did. I want to do what my uncles did. All these Marines in our family. I want to go in and be a part of that. What what would you say at this point today, right now?
I would say join the Air Force, or no, better yet, the Space Force. Right? That seems pretty damn safe to me.
I
um,
was not expecting that, man.
no, but if they did go to some type of combat arms, I would say strive to be number one in what you do. Go to the special forces community. Strive to do that. They're the cream of the crop. Try to go that route.
You wouldn't try to explain some back end, like, hey, there's political like ideology that you can't see right now, or there's all the shit that's floating in the ether that you don't realize that you're gonna sign up to do some dirty mercenary
Right.
shit. You have no idea what.
I think I would tell 'em my experience, but my experience is different from anyone else's. I'm not gonna force you to believe in something. That it's up to you. It's up to your own experiences to come up with your own beliefs. You can hear me, then you can experience it for yourself. Of course, as a parent, I'm gonna try to educate them on morality and things of that nature. But when it comes to like politics and things like that, I wouldn't push that on them.
Yeah, I'm gonna answer my own question right now, which I rarely do. If my kid came up to me and asked me, like, there's a conflict going on in wherever the world is, and he wants to go fight, I think I'm gonna break it down to him in every little fucking detail. I'll let him. I'll like unleash the fury of what I know and what I believe. Not always apparent on my show, but privately, I would give him every bit of of my mind. And then if he wants to go, then, have at it. But I can't
Yeah.
stand by and not tell my child every little bit of darkness that I feel about going to war.
Right. But this is my life now. Yeah, I'm dealing with a lot of drama right now. I'm extremely stressed out. But you know what? This is my life. This is my story that's been written. I wouldn't go back to change anything. Even the good and the bad. I wouldn't change it because it doesn't make me who I am today. My life's not perfect today, but I appreciate my life. So that's why I wouldn't change anything. So, I guess for my kids, I wouldn't. I just wouldn't do. I don't know why. Your logic makes perfect sense, but it's their own paths,
right?
You know what I mean. So I don't want to. I'll say no. You should probably, like I said, join a less lethal type military force where you're not in so much danger, right? But
you go from Space Force to Special Forces. It's like
right? It's one or the other. There's no gray area. There's no gray area there. You either be the best of the best killer, or you be the geekiest of nerds, right? So, but Ken, I hate to cut this short. I do need to be I do need to go soon.
No, this was. I really appreciate the time, the openness that you've shared. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, I got a lot going on, and I think this. I thank you for asking me because it helps. This is talk therapy. You're not a therapist, Ken. It helps when you just talk about things and extinguish your thoughts that are in your mind as you vocalize them, right? So I think it's helpful for me. That's why I'm willing to do it, and I hope somebody can hear this and learn from my experiences. And I may have not made sense at times. I'm really tired right now. Just
I understand.
Going through the steps right now in life.
Well, Jesse, we'll catch up very soon. Thank you again for coming on, and we'll talk again and feel better. And I'm here if you need to talk off air and whatnot.
Appreciate you, Ken. We'll talk soon.
Thanks, Jess.
Thank you for listening to The Vietnamese with Kenneth Nguyen. The Vietnamese is produced by Brittany Tran and Javier Proenza. Special thanks to Jane Nguyen, Catherine Nguyen, Tina Pham, Sydney Jamie, and Christo Trin. Please find us on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok at The Vietnamese Podcast. You can also find us on YouTube, where you can subscribe, like, and comment. Please rate and give us a review wherever you find our podcasts. Thanks again for listening.